All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here today with Igor, the CISO of Lovable. Igor, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm a bit fighting off the leftovers of the cold, so my voice is a bit rough and a bit dramatic. So usually it's less dramatic than that, but maybe good for this webinar. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, just yeah, you could be a dramatic guy today. It's. I think that's fine. I think it suits you quite well. No, but I'm excited to kind of get into it. I'll share my screen. Um, I don't have too many slides to share in this webinar. I thought we would just get into it. I do just. I committed a cardinal sin. I forgot to pause my Slack notification, so I'm just going to do that. Otherwise, that's going to annoy us all webinar. All right, here we go. So I just wanted to kind of start off, Igor. You guys are moving pretty fast at Lovable. Today we're going to be talking about security and things, but I just wanted to start off, kick it off generally. Uh, what have you guys been up to recently? Everything's always changing. Do you have any kind of fun, important updates of what's been going on at Lovable over the last? Well, we haven't spoken for about 6 months, so but we can probably reduce it sooner than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the coolest things we did, and I mean, we didn't orchestrate this, right? This reply, but we did one of the coolest things. We released the aikido pen test integration. That's, I'm sure we'll talk more about it, so I will not spend more time on it, but it's one of my most favorite features that we've built. I'll go into reasons why later. But yeah, I mean, it does give you the answer whether your app is, well, how secure your app is essentially. And I think this is a lot of people in the community asked for that. So that's why we did it. And we partnered with our close friends and partners from Aikido. We've had a lot of these discussions together, and we were like, how can we help people solve security for their apps, right? This is the step in that direction. Then we
Yeah.
released a bunch of cool things around security scanning. So we released things that for instance, for companies, or like, if, I mean, we released for everyone actually, but like on the workspace level, now you can say, hey, don't publish any apps unless they have zero security findings of critical level. So publishing just disabled, right? So if you have more than one person working with you, you know that every now and then you realize, wait a second, who published that? Well, no more. And then same thing, but like publishing requires running scan at least once. So you cannot just publish with zero findings because you didn't scan it. No, no, no. That's not going to happen. So we're adding this quality of life improvements around security to sort of build a better baseline, so that Lovable offers you different tools depending on your threat profile, depending on your like what you're building and who you're working with, to cater for as many as possible of the use cases, or like as many as possible situations you may want to protect yourself against and your app against. And again, like we are constantly improving security scanner. Like it's still like UI looks pretty much the same, but under the hood, I think like during March, like during this month, it's been like, half of the code is changed. We changed the backend, we changed so many things, the database even that stores the findings, so all to make it much more robust, much more deterministic. So when you click it 10 times, it doesn't come up with 10 different issues, but more like it gives you the answer, right? And then you can rely on it. And then we have such a cool thing that we'll be releasing in 2 weeks from now. I will not spoil it, but just keep an eye on. It will be around security scanning and security agent. Just keep an eye on it. It will be like hopefully game changing, or at least it will be a pretty good improvement for all your apps. So yeah, I got you there.
Love it. There's so much going on there. And it's so cool because I think a lot of the people that now have the ability to to build an application, to build something, I think it's a big concern with people because you don't know what you don't know. And it's really hard. Security is such a broad topic. So having multiple approaches, I think, is the right one. I have one slide that I'm going to do, and that's pretty much it for slides. I just wanted to really quickly cover the base. I think most people probably know what pen testing is or a pen test is, but I wanted to kind of cover, and Igor, you did kind of a great job at bringing up both of them, of like some differences here, because we're going to talk about what pen testing and AI pen testing is great for, and where we can also rely on other tools. So I think traditionally, if you look at our security toolbox, we have kind of two big things, um, at our disposal. There's obviously lots of small little ones, but the two big ones are we have security scanners, and this is kind of what is a lot of the times baked into Lovable, and this is a lot of what Keto Security also can offer for other sites, and that's things like your static code analysis, dynamic testing, secrets detection, SCA. And the key thing about these are pretty much rule based. And that's fantastic because we want to have great rules for security. There's certain things that we just don't want to publish. Um, but and the other great thing about it is this is fairly cheap. You can do it early in the system. You can do it continuously. So what Igor was saying with security scanning, if you can't publish a site without scanning it once. So this has its place, and I'm just being clear that uh, pen testing is not going to replace these types of findings or these types of scanners. And what these are great at finding are things like your injection vulnerabilities, cryptographic errors, security headers, and you can imagine how you can write a rule to find something like SQL injection. The problem is that some of the biggest vulnerabilities that we have are more creative and kind of non-deterministic. And for that, we had a category called pen testing, which was basically getting real hackers to hack your application. This is expensive, as it should be, because there's, traditionally with people, you're hiring people with real skills to do something. It's infrequent, often because of that. And you get different types of findings. So you might find things like business logic flaws, things that a scanner can't determine because a scanner doesn't know if this is intended or not. you know, if your bank app allows someone to send someone -$20, then is that intended or not? And what actually happens after that? Things like IDOR, which is the most common vulnerability. This is very, very hard to find in a scanner because it depends on how the intention of the app is going. And a lot of it comes down to something called broken access control. So we've introduced agentic AI pen testing. Such a buzzword sentence there, but I do still love it. And this is essentially baked in as doing what a pen test can, acting creatively, to kind of go through and understand some things. Now, before we kind of get in, I think the main thing that we want to do is have a little bit of a demo later on. But I thought I would ask a couple of questions to Igor just to kind of kick things off, because I think there's a couple of questions that people might kind of immediately have when you get into it. So one thing is Lovable has been obviously working very hard at building secure apps from the box, from the get-go. Then you've built in security scanners to it. Why would it be necessary to kind of do another pen test on top of this agentic pen test? Why is it kind of important that we add this layer of security?
I mean, great question. So first of all, I see what you mentioned before: scanners versus pen test. Right? Scanners is the theory, the pen test or the dynamic assessment is the practice. It's like how your theory translates into practice. So you can find theoretical vulnerabilities and fix them, but there would still be practical things that remain. Right? So from a Lovable perspective, of course, like our goal is to provide the baseline secure apps. So things that do not have obvious issues, do not have like this easy to catch problems. And of course, a lot in this depends on the creator, because creator bears the intent with them. So what they trying to build, what are they trying to solve with their product? They know how it will be used and so on. And also it depends on the creator, kind of the security of the outcome as well depends on the creator, of like how well they communicated to the agent. Do they use the agent as some kind of co-founder co-founder body that you bounce the ideas off of, where you ask, hey, co-founder buddy, Lovable, do you think I sufficiently secure my database? Can you review the RLS and tell me, anything missing or something? Can you do a review, right? If you had like a person sitting next to you, this would be exactly how you would ask them, and that helps a lot. But again, even like professional companies, for instance, Lovable itself or any other software company out there, with developers working for them, they have the same issues, right, as individual builders, right? They build some product and they need to ensure its security. So like there is a Lovable security team that ensures security of Lovable platform, for instance, and they pay us money. They have us around for that reason, that it's not just enough to run an AI agent, run an AI test, run a pen test, run a security scanner. There needs to be different layers of defense, and this is one of my most favorite concepts in security is defense in depth. So essentially, the idea is that having one layer is never enough. Even if it's a good layer, eventually, one way or another, it will fail. But the idea is that to have like a onion model where you have a lot of onion shells and onion layers, and it's like they don't have to be as strong as that one that in the previous example, but there are many. So let's say one gets breached, but then there is another, and then another is stronger in this particular space, and the attack is stopped. And same way, like whatever happens, there is always like a level of defense. So we can also view scanners, pen testers, human people in the loop as these layers, right? And then the more layers we have, the better layers are in place, the lower the chances that something will go wrong. So essentially, it's like you want to minimize the risk to your application, to its data, to your users on the application, and you need to just take into account, okay, I have these ingredients on my chef's table. How do I combine them to prepare the dish that I want? And it's up to you to kind of decide the level of that, right? Do I want like Michelin restaurant type of dish, or do I want something fast and quick? And based on that, you just combine ingredients, and then you get something. And the more you do it, the better you become, right? So I think that's a very long answer to your question. But yeah, defense in depth, different ingredients, and be there, like use the creation process, the creation agent as your co-founder and as your like review body and someone to bounce the ideas off and bring the context into the application so that the agent can create a better code. And then essentially you get quite a good quality of the application at the end.
I mean, absolutely. I love that analogy of like having the chef. And you can reach different outcomes from it. Another question I have that I think will probably come up a lot too is, at what point should you engage in this kind of pen testing? Is this something that everyone should do, or is it something that people that are building serious apps or apps with complex functionality should do? Where do you kind of see this as? Because of course, from the vendor's point of view, we're going to say everyone should do it. You should run 3, but in reality, you have different outcomes for all this. So who do you think should kind of start considering an AI pen test? At what levels or what process in the kind of lifespan of building out an app should you consider, hey, this is the time that we should kind of have this additional checks in place?
Right. Another great question, but I'll be very boring in the answer. Like, how do we, from industrial perspective, how do we assess whether we should do something or not, security-wise, right? There is often what we look at the risk equation. So pretty much, if a risk and like monitor a risk equation, or like meaning that if something goes wrong in this area, how much will it cost, or like how much damage will it cause, and how much does the potential mitigation cost now? And the idea is that whatever you apply now should mitigate like 10x more if that bad thing happens, at least, right? Or maybe 100x more.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, let's say you're building your personal blog site, you just put some blog articles there. You just put your mind, like what's on top of your mind. Hey, today I went to this pen test webinar with Igor and Mackenzie, and it was okay, and then let's say somebody hacks it, and then they deface it, and they're like, yeah, this was stupid thing, that webinar, I didn't like it, or something. And you're like, hey, I didn't write it, somebody hacked it. What's the damage out of that event? Pretty negligible, let's be honest. Like something like, it's not end of the world. It's unpleasant, but you can live with it. Should you run pen tests for your blog? Well, you may, if you are like a big blogger, but if it's like one of the thing that gets 5 visits per month and it's for you just to unleash your creativity, probably it's okay to not to, right? But again, like if you are running a $1 million business that you vibe coded entirely from scratch within the last 2 months, I mean, I think you must, right? You must do as good job as you can to ensure that like whoever trusts you with your money, with your visits, with your attention, they get, like you take care of them, of their privacy, of their security, of their yeah, like safety. So yeah, that's absolutely it. And the pen test, like I think we democratized it so much. So previously pen test costed like anywhere between $10,000 to $50,000. Companies were running them once a year. I've run a bunch of those myself in my previous companies, like where you invite two guys over or two people over to your company, and then they sit there with laptops and they find you some vulnerabilities. Essentially, what we're doing now is the same thing, but with 200 agents that smash
Yeah.
your app with thousands of attacks. They try to find those gaps, and then essentially they report you the results. But that happens in like 1 or 2 hours, and it costs $100. Like
Mm.
$100. Like imagine that. Like if you with this pen test, if you mitigate potential risk damage worth of $1,000 or more, it's already worth it. So at least from that perspective, it's a useful tool to kind of like rule of thumb to check whether you should do it. Um, yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah. Brilliant. I thought it was so funny that you were talking about if you've vibe coded an app with 1 million ARR in a few months, and that sounds like such a silly thing to say, but it's true. It's happened. Like this is the world that we live in now, which is great. Now we're getting lots of questions in here. I'll do my best to try and follow the questions in the chat. There is a questions tab there, so if you want to be sure that I'll get to your question, it will. A lot of them I think we're going to answer in the demo section. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to kind of get into it. I want to show you guys what this actually looks like from our side, and yeah, how you can do a pen test and what it actually looks like. So I have built this very beautiful, lovable website. I am always actually amazed at how good these look. I'm not just saying that, but I have this snake oil thing. We did a April Fool's joke about snake oil, so I decided to vibe code something around this. And it has a few features in it. It has a login. It has a login area for users. So there's some kind of authentication going on. I also have an admin backend area on this. So there's things that are happening which could create security concerns that aren't necessarily because there's error in the code. So that was kind of the intention from it. Is my screen okay? My screen's not flicking over.
Now it scrolled a bit, I think.
Scroll a bit. Yeah. Hang on. Give me 1 second. I think I need to reshare my screen. Yeah. Yeah, that was more what I wanted. So this we've got the sign-in page on the thing. We have a user page, and then we also have our admin page here going on. So a few things happening. So um uh this here is the site, and this will be what it looks like in your Lovable. So how you get to the pen test area, it's actually super simple. Is we just need to click on the security tab that we have open. Now we've already done the security scanning from Lovable, and we haven't found any issues from there. This is hopefully what everyone should be working with before we get to that. Make sure if there are issues detected that you deal with them before going into to the pen for the pen test. And then it's very simple. Is we just click launch new pen test, and essentially you'll be directed to the Aikido page. And if you don't have an account, you'll be directed to sign to create one. And then getting started is super simple. So we have a couple of areas in here. The first part is what's great is that we can test our entire application, or we can test like a small part. So if you've done a pen test previously and you've extended functionality, you can test just that extended functionality if you really want to go deep into one specific area, or test your entire application. Here you can also add in various different rules, different kind of users. Now, one of the things about a pen test is you can decide what the agents have access to. So you can decide, do I give you access to all my accounts, or give you access to accounts, so maybe a user or an admin account, and see what it can do, or do I give you access to nothing and see what you can find with nothing? It's much more secure to give it access to as much as you can, because then you're tying the hands behind the back of someone on your side. But can be interesting to see what it can do with no information. So we can add in users. There's various different things that you can do, including adding in a kind of MFA, or if you want to have API keys or various areas like that. all of this can be done with natural language. So here we can explain how to log in. So I have a user, John Smith, Gmail uh, with a very secure password. Um, and then it will go ahead, it will check that we can log in that. Now, this is obviously very simple. We can make this complicated. We can give the agents complicated instructions if we have complicated workflows on our with various different account types, various different levels of accounts. We can give an instruction for that. Here we can also kind of add in different domains. This one is probably not going to be super necessary unless you have a very, very complex app, but it will be able to discover kind of the different domains that your site is kind of using, and then let it know if we want to like attack this application or just access it. Like, can we pull information from this domain, or do we actually want to actively attack it?
Yeah, and if the application has a database, there will be a database link also here included, which is important. So yeah, it will be set as attackable. So you will the actual like it's the
Absolutely.
same as the hacker would be trying to hack your database. This thing would be doing the same thing, but for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very, very good point. We can also add in here some documentation and code. So I've connected it to the Git repository. This is really important. So most pen tests, when you get them done, the pen testers will generally have access to the Git repository because you want them to find vulnerabilities. The goal is for them not. The goal is not for you to feel good about it at the end. I didn't find anything. The goal is to give them as much as you can, but you don't have to. Again, you get to choose what they get access to. And here you can upload data. Now, this may be any of the documentation about how your site works. It could be you could even ask Lovable to provide information about how it's how it's worked, how users interact, the different architecture, how it's all set up. You can add all the documentation around that to essentially give the attackers as much information as possible. But again, you get to decide what you want to do. Now, there was a couple of questions about is this going to like put on big loads on our apps when we do pen tests. So this here is designed to of how much load we want to put on our application. Now, it will generally be okay in the scope that we're doing, but if if we're testing this in full production environments, you can choose if you want to do it on weekends, outside of business hours, areas like that. If you want, it will put some stress on your application, but especially if you're hosting it within a Lovable, it's going to be a heck of a job to try and bring it down. But still important to have these in there. We have a special we have a special deal with Lovable. So usually it'd be around about 250 credits to do this. It's only 100 credits, so it's much cheaper than what you kind of would expect out there. And then we can go ahead, and when we're ready to go, we can run our assessment. And then basically what happens is it decides how many agents and what it does. So it builds out a threat model for us, and then it decides how many different agents do we need. Now, there's hundreds of agents. We have over 350 agents, all specifically designed for specific things. When we analyze your application, we will decide what agents we need to send out there. And so to make sure and to give them as much time as possible to go through. And we can kind of see that. So we can actually watch the agents running. So we have our pre-flight agent running. When we go back to our overview, we will actually see them. Now, pen tests do take some time. On a very complex site, it will take, a few hours to run. So I've already gone ahead and tested this. So if we go to a different completed area, you can kind of see what it looks like. So these are all of our agents. It's showing you the screenshots of what they're seeing. So here you can see, oh, it's a screenshot of my admin portal. I didn't give it admin credentials. So the fact that it's been able to look at that is probably pretty concerning that we've seen it. But we can see that in the screenshots. We can see what all the agents are doing. And there's some very, very cool information that we can kind of see when we're going through this. We can have a look at the threat model of what it made. So this is kind of, if you imagine you asked a hacker, you gave a hacker a site with all this information, said, what would be your plan to attack it? This was our plan to attack your site, and what we went through. And with the agents, again, too, what's also really interesting is you can kind of see what they're actually doing. So you can see where they're thinking. It will tell you what it's trying to do, and then it will let you know, its whole process. So not that I would ever encourage anyone to kind of learn naughty things, but I do look at this and be like, if you did want to know how to hack things,
My
yeah,
favorite thing to watch. Like sometimes I'm so impressed by ingenuity of these agents. They're like, whoa, they're like really trying hard and coming up with fun ways to break it up. That's incredible.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And so we're going to go through that. This one has found some issues from it, or one issue. So this was just a simple act. So we weren't expecting to find anything. But what it did find, as was expected, was to do with my admin page. And this was the fact that my admin portal was actually didn't have the correct authentication on it. This is kind of something common that is not a vulnerability in the application by any technical means. It's the fact that the pen test has figured out that, hey, we don't want regular users to be able to access the admin page, but at this point, you know, we can. Now that's a kind of a logic area there. So this is the type of thing that would be interesting for these to find. Now, one of the great things about this is when we actually look into if we have a look at our attack analysis here, it gives us the reproduction steps of this. So you can also kind of see, so we can go through, it will explain to you what the vulnerability is, how it happens. And in this case, it's able to tell us that actually the admin password for the admin page was admin. And we can verify this by just getting it to copy in some information. Just give me 1 second. If we open up our terminal and just have a look, what we can do is we can copy its kind of quick check guide here. If we make a curl command to what it's saying, and what it's going to do is we get a response, and then it's highlighted in here kind of the issues that we have, and that is that our password is admin, and then we also tell it to type admin to enter. So this is kind of an example. Now, this is an exaggerated example. I kind of want to be clear of something very, very quick that we've put together for this, but it gives you an idea. If you want to have a look at kind of a more complex one, we have some of like what a more complex pen test may actually look like, is that when you go through and have a look at some of these, is that there's kind of lots of different areas, and some that are very difficult to find. So this is from a different pen test. We have IDOR vulnerabilities. We have improper access control. This is not a Lovable app. I want to be clear. This is something else, but gives you an idea of the vulnerabilities that can be found in kind of this type of pen test. So that's essentially the essence of it. It's super simple. It's integrated in. It's very cheap, especially when you consider the cost of a normal pen test. And yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. So
Yeah.
what I want to do is,
And
oh, Igor,
a quick note on that, like if there is any findings, they will show up here in this agentic pen test by aikido bar, and then this button try to fix all will also take care of those findings. So like you just need to, like when the test is ended, you just click sync findings, it will bring them here, and then you click try fix all, and it fixes everything. So yeah, that's the whole integration. So like they are interconnected, and
yeah,
then yeah, it resolves.
which is kind of like the most important part, because it's all very well in security. One of the biggest issues is for a while, for like the last 5 years, finding vulnerabilities, hasn't necessarily been the struggle that we're faced in security. It's been like, what do you do when you find them? How do you solve it? How do you know what you solved it? So that integration of having it's kind of like having two experts, a hacking expert and an expert developer, talking to each other and be able to solve stuff for you, which is it's a super cool concept that we have there. Okay. Well, what I wanted to do is I was hoping to keep this webinar fairly short and sweet. So I wanted to hand over and kind of to you all and see um, if you have any questions about this. Now, we have a questions tab. I'm going to go to the questions tab because it's a little bit it's a little bit too busy in the chat right now. Okay. So everyone here, in case of Lovable calling APIs via in A10, is the verification limited to Lovable, or does it extend across other sectors? So the validation, um, Igor, do you have a key answer for this one here?
Yeah, I mean, like how it would work, right? It scans the Lovable app. So the Lovable URL is set as attackable, and that's important. So the agent will make sure not to touch anything else, because scanning something on the internet might be unlawful, right? So I don't encourage you to run like some kind of agent against some website online you find. But this is a agent, aikido agent performing a very lawful the activity that you want it to do. So it will not attack NA10 directly, obviously. But again, like if there is an integration, it will try to understand, hey, can I do something? Can I get that NA10 key out of the integration? Or can I break it some way? Because like integration can be like both ways, right? Let's say there is something, let's say NA10 calls Lovable. And then since you add the code, because when you configure the pen test, it automatically links the code from the repository. So if the agent, if the Aikido agent understands, hey, this is how I can break Lovable through this NA10 integration, it will try it, right? It will not, again, like it will not go outside of Lovable for that reason, but any kind of exposed ins and outs of the application, they will be in scope. So partially yes, partially yes. Again, integration is always like, it's always a tricky point, but I think this is how we think about any integrations as security engineers. It's like we cannot affect that much what's on that side, but we know the configuration of like how the connection is happening, what is data coming in and out, and based on that we can make certain assumptions and attempts to break the security of the system or improve, depending on the task.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. This one here, there's some questions about credits. I saw them. I should have mentioned one credit is essentially $1. So easy maths if you live in the US, essentially. So that's basically the deal that we have. It's probably a little bit of a better deal than this, but we're trying not to exaggerate anything. But it's a good deal for Lovable users for sure. Another question: how do we scrub agents data out of the pen test? So the agents won't create persisted access for themselves. They will typically log in like via the methods that you provide them. So ideally, they wouldn't really have persisted access afterwards. They may try and create accounts in various ways, but if you're providing them kind of access, then it shouldn't kind of be a problem. The other area is if you can set up a staging environment as well to run pen tests, that's also can be fun. But yeah, there's some other kind of areas for that. Igor, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah. So ideally, or like I would say, Lovable have been working. Our team has been working super hard on the feature where we offer also like dev test environment for projects, right? So you can publish, but publish to dev, kind of a separate branch that is not public, but you can run all the whatever you want on it, like pen test and so on, and then it's same code, but it's a different kind of database that's powering the published version. So essentially, we would run the test against it. But that's been we've been beta testing it with like limited group of people, and there was like a lot of back and forth. So we pulled it back, the feature itself. So currently, you can only test against your app, right? Whatever your app is. That's a limitation. However, we have worked with the Aikido people, Aikido engineers, proactively on minimizing the impacts of pen tests. So we tried it in November when the first idea was born. And then, yeah, I mean, that could do some things to the database, like could leave a lot of data and so on. But we focused on changing the rules, how the agent engages, and making sure it's as least invasive as possible while maintaining its capabilities. So we made sure for certain classes of issues, if they're found, they often lead to quite some data ending up in the database from the agent. Again, agent will not delete the data, but it may inject something in it. So from that side, we minimized it. So of course, like, we cannot tell you, hey, 100% your database will be exactly the same as it was. But again, like, and when you start a pen test, you acknowledge that, well, things may change. But like from the practical perspective, it's very, very rarely happening. And also think about that. If the AI agent can do this, any hacker on the internet could do it if they discovered your site,
Yeah.
right? So more or less, like, it's like, taking a medicine. It's not nicely tasting yet. We will release those staging environments at some point, and there the taste will be much nicer. But still, it's a medicine. It helps you. And on another hand, is like, if you use Lovable Cloud, for instance, you can go and you can examine your database before and after, and you can clearly see if there is any data that is mechanically added. You can ask your Lovable agent to remove it, or you can do it yourself. You can edit there just in the UI. So again, like, it's not leaving like 10,000 roles. It might be like one or two, and it will clearly be like at the bottom of it, at the end of it, like, it's quite easy to do. If you want to be like pedantic, there is a function in Lovable Cloud, export CSV from a table. So you can export the CSV before running the pen test for every table, and then you can compare it afterwards and be like number of roles, or I don't know, like anything you want to look at. You can just compare, is it the same data or not? Yeah, because I understand sometimes, yeah, you want to run it on like the production instance. Yeah, I mean, it should work okay, but again, like, of course, we encourage everyone to double check, and there are tools like this to give you extra conscious that it worked well, or spot those minimal additions that the test did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very, very, very important answer. I think there's a lot of questions here about that, about bringing down production, about load balancing and areas. And I think Igor's kind of main point is that if your production application has these vulnerabilities live, then we want to find out about them immediately. And this is a good way to do it, even if creates a little bit of pain for the medicine, as you put it. There's a question here: what kind of vulnerabilities can a pen test find that security scanners can't? So I think there's a thing there about sending negative money, which was like a silly example that I gave. So I just to start off with this, and then I'll pass it over to Igor. Like, for me, what it is that scanners have a little bit of a limited context when it comes into it. And an example that I'll kind of give is on the site that we tested, I had an admin area that could be accessible by an authenticated user that wasn't an admin. A security tool can't determine if that's intended or not. Like, it's very, very difficult to write a rule that would find that. Now, this is just one example, but you need creative. A human would be able to know that. That's type of creativity that we're trying to implement when it comes to pen testing. And the other kind of ones are the things like IDOR, where you're directly referencing a kind of a user ID. So example would be if you had a banking application and your user ID was in the URL and it was 1234 and you changed it to 1235. If that showed you a different person's information, that often is a vulnerability, and it's because you're already authenticated, but it's not checking the different levels of authorization that you're allowed. Now, these are hyperbolic examples that I'm giving you to illustrate points. I'm quite sure that these exact examples wouldn't show up, but it's the creativity that we're trying to find in here. Igor, do you have anything to add to that one?
I think apologies, my voice is giving up, but I think that covers it essentially. And we also, like, our security scanner is also, it's not just rules. There are rules, but there is also AI behind it, so it does find business logic issues, and sometimes that's the reason why it's kind of flickery. Sometimes it finds new things because, like, it rethinks the way your app works, and it's kind of good and bad at the same time. But again, like, that's a theoretical answer. That's like something, hey, based on this code, this is how the application should work like. But like, why you should run dynamic scanning is that because that's what bad people on the internet do. They don't know how your app works. There's like, here's one endpoint, here's another one. What can I do here? right? What types of attack I can smash at this endpoint. Let's see what the
Mm,
response. Oh, that's an interesting response. Let's dig there. Let's dig deeper down. Let's try to send something more specific, and so on. So unit tests, and another thing about unit tests, it's like you test. It's a positive test, right? In a way, it's like you test against a condition, and you know the answer to it. Whereas with hacking is like expanding the boundary of like unknown. So hacker doesn't know how your app works. Like they don't have code usually. They don't know where it will fail. So comparing it, like unit test in this case would be like make sure that logging password, like login with admin doesn't work. Great, you have a test for that. But what if you change it to admin one, admin two, or something? The unit test will pass, but the vulnerability will remain, right? And then since the applications are dynamic, they change all the time. The value of such like static tests for security, it's pretty diminishing. There is another theory which is pretty fun, that the testing kind of exhausts itself. So even if you have the best set of unit tests, system tests, and so on, somebody has to maintain them. Somebody creates those conditions. So essentially, you end up with no bugs in the areas that you test. But that's not guarantee that your application doesn't have any bugs, because there are many other areas that you cannot have 100% coverage for, right? So essentially, yes, you optimize for those areas, but security is, it's much more kind of non-deterministic, and it depends on who's your user, who's your attacker, and so on. So you cannot achieve 100% coverage, and essentially you need this dynamic, self-adapting attack techniques that would just find things that look weird. It's like, oh, this is weird. This is not the response that is the correct response to this payload. Means that you manage to not break it, the application, but like send it down the weird path, and then they start exploring, right? So that's the main difference in my head.
yeah, yeah. No, really well said. Really well said. And it's also like not to say that unit tests aren't good, and one's better than the other. It's just we need to add more ingredients to our to our pot, essentially. Um, Here's a kind of difficult one that I'm going to attempt to answer. But given that AI can sometimes hallucinate, how do we make sure that the pen tests are not including false positives? So when we click all that, it's actually fixing real things. This is a really great question. So we put a lot of, and I think I wanted to bring up this one when I saw it, even though it's difficult, because I think this is where we're really excelling apart from kind of other platforms that are offering similar things. And that is the kind of reintroducing and feedback loop that we do on the aikido side to ensure that the vulnerabilities are actually legitimate. And part of that is the reproduction steps that we actually provide for you as well. So we make sure that when we find something, that we're not just finding something that theoretically could be a vulnerability, we're actually reproducing the steps to actually create that vulnerability and validating it kind of in various different ways. It's a difficult problem because what makes AI amazing is its non-deterministic nature. That's why we've unlocked a new category of kind of abilities, superpowers. Um, but we need to make sure that we direct it in the right way. Um, Igor, I don't know if you have anything to add to kind of this one about what you saw from your side.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing is we run different scanners internally for different purposes. And sometimes we need to verify static scanner finding ourselves and for the Lovable app. And what I found that the scanners, the agents, they are pretty good detectors of nonsense. So if you throw a fully hallucinated finding and ask the agent, hey, verify if this is real or not, it will do a good job. So if it's hallucinated, it will say no, that's not right. So essentially, when you click try fix all in Lovable, it will go through findings one by one. And what you do not see is that every finding there in the UI, you see just the description, small description, but behind the scenes, there is like this big description on how to fix it. So, by the way, Aikido produces this description for findings of the pen test. It explains how it found it, what went wrong, and then the agent decides what to do with it. So it combines that knowledge. It already has knowledge how to fix it, and if it's a not real issue, it will just deny it. It will be like, well, that doesn't sound like a real one. Like based on what I understand, and I'm the authority here, I'm the lovable agent. Like, yeah, I just added to ignored, right? And then it happens now. It's that smart. So I wouldn't worry about it too much or even at all. And again, like just like click try to fix, and then it figures it out.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, brilliant. And Bart from the Aikido team has also posted in there that each finding that an agent finds is validated from a different agent as well. So just that whole like loop process of being able to reproduce it, test it, validate it with another agent, and come down. I we're gonna have to close up. I said to Igor at the start, I said, I reckon we're gonna be done in half an hour. Okay, it's been 45 minutes and we're not like halfway through the questions. So I think we'll have to wrap it up. But what we will do is I'll take the questions that haven't been answered and I'll provide an answer for you via email from the team. So we will get to you all. But Igor, thanks so much for coming and joining us here a day. Your insights are brilliant as always. I always enjoy sitting down with you. Yeah, thanks so much, and really looking forward to what you guys have coming out at Lovable. It's always amazing how quickly you're moving. so, so yeah, we can't wait to kind of see where it all goes from here.
Yeah, thank you for a great conversation and partnership. And to everyone, thank you for your questions. There is great questions here. It really helps us set the right direction. And yeah, I mean, yeah, try to use my only last message, kind of closing words, like try to use the feature, try to see what works, what doesn't. Yeah, and then keep an eye on the updates from us and from Aikido. There will be cool things coming out.
Excellent, awesome. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you on the next webinar.